So the Braves just clinched this past weekend, winning their sixth straight division title. It was a crazy series in Philly. It felt like every game was close. The Braves would get out to a big lead, and then Trey Turner, who's turned into Babe Ruth, would help the Phillies chip back at that lead, and then the Braves would just take the game. I was really excited to see them clinch in Philly. I don't know if it was because of last year or just because I wanted it to be over and I didn't want to have to depend on another Phillies loss. Uh, but that was really exciting. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, it felt good. It was really funny how much all the broadcasters, when interviewing the Braves afterwards, how much they really wanted them to admit how nice it was clinching in Citizens Bank Park. If it really mattered to them, we'll never know. They'll never let us know. But as a fan, yeah, I agree. It felt pretty good. It was off a pretty, I would say, typical Braves game too. Spencer Strider got in some trouble in the first inning. Offense bailed him out. He ended up pitching a really good game, all things
I
considered.
could not believe he got 7 innings out of that
Yeah,
after that first inning.
I was yelling at the TV when I saw him come out for the seventh. He was at 98 pitches, and I'm like,
Yeah,
guys, we have this game in the bag. We really
I
don't
kind of
need.
figured that he'd be back out for the seventh because the bullpen had been so taxed the past 2 or 3 games. I guess two
Yeah,
days, 3 games. But it was an outstanding game. We're not going to talk about the Marlins series in this episode.
it didn't happen.
As far as I'm concerned, yeah, it didn't happen. And instead of talking about a series against the Pirates, a series against the Cardinals, and a series against the Phillies, which was outstanding, but it's kind of old news now, and we decided to go over even older news because we're gonna go over the season in review. It's been a really fun season. So we're gonna look at some of the best moments from this season, some of our highlights from the series. Cole has some unsung heroes, and I think I'm just gonna jump into it. So I think we previewed this. If you follow us on Twitter, you might have already gotten a hint. If you do or don't follow us on Twitter, you should find that post and comment your favorite moment. But my favorite moment was a game that I saw the last inning of while I was stranded on the side of a highway on the border of Virginia and North Carolina. I had the worst night that night. I didn't get to a hotel that I wasn't even supposed to be in until 2 a.m. And I went to bed exuberant. I was excited. I was so happy I couldn't sleep because the Braves and Mets had the craziest game. I mean, I didn't see it, most of it, but uh, it was a Justin Verlander and Spencer Strider start. Should have been a pitcher's duel. It wasn't. And now all I hear is poor Larry Crown start the buses. Woo. Iconic.
It was such a good game that it got you adorning a tinfoil hat and theorizing that they use juice balls specifically for a special regional broadcast, which,
I'm sticking to it.
yeah,
What
yeah. I'm
what
not,
better way to
I'm a
for
skeptic, but
Bally
yeah,
for Bally to get four guys really. Francour's a fantastic broadcaster, uh, but Chipper's never really done it before, and Glavin and Smoltz are both color commentary guys, as is Francour. Maybe Bally slipped some money. The money that they don't have because they're going bankrupt. They slipped some money to MLB and said, guys, we really need this.
those
We've already relinquished our rights to the Padres. We're about to do the same to the Diamondbacks. Please just let us have juice balls
those
next
those
game.
those short boys started selling well, and they're like, we gotta divert these funds and make
Yeah,
ancillary investments into John Smoltz and Chipper Jones. And yeah, it was a great game. I wasn't stranded, but I was also in not my home state. I was playing a show in Alabama. The only inning I really caught live was when they phoned in Greg Maddux, and I was kind of under I do wish I could have just seen that game, and I did end up watching the follow up, which was fortunately not nearly as good. It was just like a very typical Charlie Morton had his best career start. but there was literally no drama. The Mets were dead in the water at this point. And that's something that, you know, when we look back on the season and we see these two teams' final records, you know, people who weren't there in the moment are going to ask themselves, like, why was this game that important? It was just against a bottom feeder of the division. But at this point, the Mets were still a formidable threat. I mean, we still thought that they were going to be basically chasing after us like we were chasing after them in 2022. And this series was the turning point, really looking back at it. I mean, this is pretty much where their season turned around.
Such a demoralizing series. If you guys forgot, so the Mets came into that series, I think they were down 6 games in the standings. If they had swept, they would have only been behind 3, and we're talking about a completely different outlook for the franchise, honestly. They take a 3-run lead in the first game. The Braves come back. Pete Alonso famously says, "Throw it again. Please throw it again." And then the Braves just hit a bunch of homers. I don't actually think it was that bad. I think we talked about it at the time, but it's just like, it wasn't even that bad of a statement.
No.
The next day, the Mets go up 3 again, and then the Braves come back and win it. And then the game we think is one of the best games of the year, maybe the best game of the year. They were up by like 5, 6, and they blew that lead too.
Yeah.
And that was just, I remember coming into that series thinking, oh man, the Mets could sweep us. They had Scherzer and Verlander, Mets legends, lined up, and I can't even remember was it Cookie?
Yeah, it was Cookie Carrasco in game 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not fantastic, but they had 2 of their better starters lined up, and they just gave it to the Braves. And I think that game, and then I'm going to talk about a game that happened a few days earlier. They were really the big turning points for the Braves, who were already good. I mean, they were in first place. We're not talking about like 2021, Ronald Acuna Jr. goes down, and I'm thinking about not watching the rest of the season. But at that point, they were just a good team, a really good team. And after June 8, I don't think I saw them lose for a month.
Yeah, they had, and we'll get to it in a second, one of the best offensive months of all time from that point on. I'll get into one of we can sort of just ping pong here. Yeah. So yeah, I have like top 5 moments, and then I have like top 5. Okay, cool. I didn't spoil it. I guess I'll get into start doing my like top 5 games. My number 5, it was a loss. This will be the only Braves loss on my list, and I think we both know what game it is. June 23rd, Cincinnati, Ohio, Great American Ballpark. The Reds came into the series really the talk of the town. They were in their hottest stretch of the season. I think according to like Bill James temperature measure, they were, best team pretty much at this point. And, it was AJ Smith-Shawver versus one of their billion rookie pitchers.
Luke Weaver.
Jesus. Oh, my God.
Weaver,
yeah, it was Luke Weaver.
Not allow 8 or more runs in a start.
Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. Luke Weaver. Yeah. Diamondbacks, Cardinals legend. He was in the Paul Goldschmidt's trade. Just a back and forth. And, we ended up losing this game, but winning the series. But it was definitely just high octane. It kind of felt a little bit like 2019 baseball, and I know part of that is because it was Great American Ballpark. Travis d'Arnaud, sets the table with that 3-run homer. It was, I think, AJ Smith-Shawver's last full look as a major league starter. Like after that, he was just kind of became a spot starter, and it was just watching 2 really good teams, like 2 like one who would end up being a historically great offense versus another team that just had everything churning at the right time going against each other. And it literally felt like an immovable object and an unstoppable force coming together. And I mean, Reds barely hung on, and it was just amazing, stupid baseball. I loved every second of it.
Yeah, I think I became a Reds fan for like a hot second back in June.
Yeah.
I mean, Braves first, obviously, but like June, early July, I completely bought in on the Reds propaganda.
And we had a lot of those types of series. I know we've talked about in the past with the Diamondbacks and the Orioles, and where we won all the series against these teams. I mean, I know Diamondbacks, we split the season series, but when we went to Arizona in early June, and obviously we split up the Reds earlier in the season, but they were a completely different team. And then we go to Cincinnati, take the series, and then Orioles, we play them at home. Teams were all like, okay, like we won. We definitely big brothered them, but these are good teams, and they played good baseball against us. They were all very competitive games. So that was, I think, the epitome of one of those games against those up-and-coming teams that I've seen a lot of this year. I mean, we talk about the disappointments in, the Padres, Mets, and Cardinals, but you can't get those disappointments without some, surprise contenders. And they put up really good series against us. We won, but, tip your hat. Y'all played good baseball.
I wouldn't have been mad if the Braves had lost that series, to be honest. And that was in June, so maybe we needed a loss. But that game that you're talking about, that Friday night game, I didn't watch it to its completion, but when I saw the Braves lost by 1 run, I was like, oh, that was pretty fun. That was a great game. Like, normally if you blow a 5-0 lead in the first inning, you slam your laptop down or you turn off your TV and you just brood about it. That one I was like, oh, that was nice.
I mean, you mentioned Ellie De La Cruz hit for the cycle. I mean, that was his coming out party, and I know it's all been
I need him to be good.
Pretty much downhill from there. Yeah, he'll figure it out. It's like, I think we were like, this is the next evolution of O'Neal Cruz, who the book's not written on him either. He unfortunately had that ankle injury that cost him this entire season, and I think we just so desperately wanted Ellie De La Cruz to be the complete package, which he clearly isn't right now. But I do think he's going to be a generational talent. That guy is just what we saw from him in that series
was ridiculous. One of his triple has stuck with me just because you're talking about a line drive, a hard hit line drive that a Gold Glove caliber center fielder cuts it off before he gets to the wall.
In Great American Ballpark too. Right. I mean, this is like,
we're not talking about San Francisco.
Yeah.
And he still makes it to third.
Yeah.
Like, not even close. I don't think Harris could have done anything differently either.
That's
just the insane part of.
It's so scary.
Why I need him to be good.
Watching a guy who's 6'6" run that fast. Like, when you see Ron Acuna Jr. run that fast, I mean, I know obviously LA is on a different plane when it comes to sprint speed, but it's like, okay, like, it makes sense. It looks like he's on a treadmill when he's running. Like, there's just something where for some reason he's going faster than his actual stride appears to be going. It just confounds me. It just blows my mind.
I feel like with De La Cruz, you could have like a beat the freeze style race, but instead of giving me like a 25% head start, you give me a 50% head start. I'd still lose. Like, before, not even like a photo finish. He's so fast. I don't get it.
All right,
but this
what's
is
your
a
next
podcast?
Yeah, what's your next one?
Spencer Strider.
Oh yeah.
Because there was a brief. No, it wasn't brief. It was like 5 innings long, from the 3rd inning until the 7th inning. I really thought I was gonna see the first Braves perfect game. The Braves have not had a no-hitter in my lifetime. The last no-hitter by a Brave was back in '94 by Kent Mercker. This is the last thing on my bucket list. I need a no-hitter. But I need it.
You need a no-hitter. You need a no-hitter.
I need a no-hitter.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to get a perfecto, the first one in 11 years, which... Anyway. So, Strider had... I don't even know if you can call it just dominant. I think that sells it short. He had 13 strikeouts and 101 pitches.
Yeah. Like, half of those strikeouts, it felt like were on 3 pitches.
6 or 7 were 3 pitches?
Yeah. I mean, there's dominant, and then there's just yeah, what's a word that goes beyond dominant? There's just inhuman, like just
Yeah, it
just
was insane. Arias was out of that game, so you lost a big contact bat. But the Marlins are not, as
and
a
the
whole
guy,
team, a strikeout heavy team.
yeah, and the guy who ended up breaking up the no hitter isn't even on the Marlins anymore. He's like on a boat off the coast of like Peru or something.
He's having a lot of fun. I kind of
Yeah,
want to be with him.
yeah. I
Uh,
he deserves it, man. He deserves it.
he's a fun guy. I
Yeah.
I always wanted him and Aguilar on the Braves. And Aguilar is in the Braves organization. You think he's gonna? I think he's gonna be in around in October actually. But so Olsen makes an error to end the perfect game. So frustrating.
Yeah.
And then Segura on like a 2-2 slider, way out of the zone, just kind of
Just
throws the bat at it.
yeah, pretty much just like a Javi Baez type of hit where he just sold out. I mean, it's like I'm just hoping this doesn't go to somebody, and he just softly lines it. The Marlins special, a soft line over the shortstop's head. He bat flipped it. I know that drove a lot of Braves fans mad. I thought it was
enjoyed
kind
it.
of funny. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. I like Gene. I'm sorry, I'm a Gene Segura stan, 100%.
I think some Braves fans who are not very familiar with Segura took it as like a cocky, "I got you" moment. I mean, they were down by like 7 or 8 runs at that point.
Yeah,
It was a haha. I can't believe I hit that bat flip.
yeah. I will say I was a little bit relieved that he did get the hit, just because. I mean, up until that Olsen error, it didn't even. I mean, it looked like he was facing a single A team. I mean, even up to that error, it looked like he was facing a single A team.
I mean, I could have
it
gone
just
to the plate with the same results.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, if you're striking out half the hitters, you have 13 strikeouts, and half of them are on 3 pitches. Like that's like bowling that's not like throwing a perfect game of baseball. That's like bowling a perfect game. Like you literally you executed on everything. Like nothing missed. So
The fielders didn't even need to be out there.
yeah, pretty much.
I really want another Strider game like this year. I don't think we're gonna get it just because of ramping up for the playoffs. I mean,
Yeah.
the World Series, NLDS, NLCS. Spencer, if you want to have the best start of your life in about 4 weeks,
Pull a Roy Halladay, Don
Sign-
Larson.
sign
Let's
us
do
up.
it. Let's get
yeah,
weird.
sign us up.
I mean, hey, there's a non-zero chance that we play the Marlins in the NLDS, especially now that they swept us. I think I have a theory, but I'm not going to say it on
us
this
to sweep
show.
the Phillies this series. We're probably releasing this as the Phillies game is starting or tomorrow after that first Phillies game is over. So I don't know, but it'd be so funny to get swept by the Marlins just to sweep the Phillies.
I
and make things
seriously,
interesting.
look. I'm not saying that the Braves are throwing games. They'll never do that. But I don't think they were that mad about getting swept by the Marlins. I don't think anybody in
No.
that clubhouse is worried. Ronald Acuna Jr. and just like I know, again, we're sort of throwing the towel on this episode and just talking about the season and not really what's been going on recently. If you haven't heard, Ronald Acuna Jr. did pull his not pull, but he tweaked his calf slightly. He's the Marlins Lone Depot. It is turf, which it's kind. I mean, I guess it is like an indoor ballpark, but it's like, Doc, we're in 2023. Like, why are we playing on turf? Like, there's literal studies saying that, especially if they use the tire rubble, like it's actually led to an increase in players getting cancer. Not great. But I guess leave it to the Marlins to build a turkey of a stadium.
The Marlins hate Acuna. Acuna hates the Marlins. It's the perfect relationship.
What I'm saying though is Braves fans, don't be worried about Ronald. He's fine. I am 100% certain that he wanted to play on Saturday and Sunday, and the Braves had to tell him not to. So he'll be back in the lineup. I mean, he'll be back in the lineup tonight.
Yeah.
I'm like 100%.
Even
I'll
if he
bet
misses
my
the
life
first
on that.
couple of games, or like this series, he's not going on the IL.
No.
And if he does, I mean, we're just a couple stupid Braves fans. What do we know?
Yeah.
But he should be fine. The staff didn't seem too concerned. The media wasn't reporting it as a concerning element. But yeah, so I think we're
my
ready
next
for your number 2.
my next game, I'm going counting down, and honestly, so my first game was the game against the Mets, so we already talked about that, and my third game was the Strider game. So I'll just do my number 4, and then you do your last one. I'll do my last one, or however much we have left. My number 4, August 31st against the Dodger Stadium. First game of the series. Again, very similar vibe to the Cincinnati series, where this game was getting a lot of. It was on MLB Network. It was getting a lot of national press just because the Mookie Betts, Ronald Acuna Jr. MVP discourse was at its height, and Ronald just balled out. I mean, that grand slam, that was honestly the single most joyous moment I've had this season was that grand slam. When he hit that, I was right there watching on my TV. I fell to the floor. I curled up in a ball. I could not believe like what I just saw. Maybe one of the cleanest home run swings I've ever seen, which would actually get broken a day later.
2 nights later.
Yeah, 2 nights later when he hit that bomb off of Emmett Sheehan, the 121 mile per hour rope. But
I still think about that 121. I
that
dream about that.
that is like the ultimate. I mean, it literally just felt like I know I've compared Ronald Acuna Jr. swing to a cannon. That it literally just looked like a cannonball being shot into the stratosphere. But the game against the Dodgers, I know that was the middle of Matt Olson's slump, but it really felt again like a true team effort. I was really impressed by Spencer Strider. We've talked about his struggles sort of with ego at times, where he will very visibly talk down to himself. Like you can see in his body language when he's struggling. I know that start against the Tigers where Miguel Cabrera just hit his first home run of the season off of him, and it just was a complete dud of a start. You could tell by his body language he was just like negative self-talk, and this was one of those starts where he could have easily, Mookie Betts hit those 2 home runs against him, or hit that 1 home run against him, and then obviously he allowed to run the first inning, and he could have easily turned that into a much worse start than it ended up actually being. And I think that momentum got him a long way. We saw it again with the start against the Phillies recently, where he had a rough first inning through like 36 pitches, only allowed, I think it was 1 or 2 runs. He limited the damage.
Yeah, 1 run.
And that was it. He was dominant the rest of the time. And I think if that was Spencer Strider in June, that would have been a much worse start. The Phillies would have scored. He would have been down on himself. He wouldn't have been as effective. And what could have been 2 runs would have turned into 5, 6, 7. So that was really impressive. I think he was sort of the unsung hero of that game. I know a lot of ink was spilled about Ronald, which for good reason. The Dodgers kept coming back, but we kept putting up insurance runs. That's something I think is important for this Braves team, especially going to the October, is to just never let your foot off the pedal. I mean, even if you're up 8-0, like treat it like a tie game. Just get as much as you can on the board, because you just never know, especially a team like the Dodgers. So
yeah,
great game.
That was one of the best series I think we've watched in a while. And going to LA is just so hard for the Braves.
First series they won in Los Angeles since 2012.
Yeah, I feel like half of my playoff memories with the Braves, aside from 2021, which was just magical, I see the Dodgers, and I'm like, oh, the Braves are gonna lose.
Yeah, and
I think that's
I was gonna say in 2021 we still dropped the series in Los Angeles. They still took 2 out of 3. So historically, it's been a house of horrors every time we go out to Chavez Ravine, and the first time since 2012. And I think that's where we really saw this team. I think that's where I knew this team was special. I know it took all the way until the end of August to realize that, but that was like the last box that I needed checked personally.
So my next one is going to be another NL West team, but we're going to go all the way back to June. If you guys don't remember, the series before the Diamondbacks series, where the Braves took 2 out of 3, was the series that they they lost 2 out of 3 to the Oakland A's. Cole had guaranteed a sweep. Maybe next year, and the Braves lost the first game, I believe, of the Diamondback series. They won the second game, and in the third game, it looked like the Braves were about to go have a losing record against the Diamondbacks, who were a good team at the time, and they still are. But they were leading the NL West back then, and then the Oakland A's. The Braves load the bases, and Eddie Rosario comes up with 2 outs. I love that the Braves broadcasting crew are Braves fans. Like, I love having Peter Moreland in the booth. I just went back and watched this when we were prepping for it, and he's one of us. Brandon Gaudin is one of us. When Eddie Rosario hit a grand slam down 1 run with 1 out left in the game, those guys were just us in the booth. So instead of losing 2 out of 3 against Arizona, the Braves won 2 out of 3. And they went on, and the next 30 games, they only lost 5 of those after that game, including, all the 3 games against the Mets. I think this is kind of the turning point for the Braves season, like I was saying earlier. But when you flip that script, when you go from having a losing record on the road out west to having an even record out west, and then you win 25 games. I don't think it gets any better. This is where they really distance themselves. I don't think I've been afraid of the Braves losing the division since July 1, to be honest.
Yeah, that was the spark plug for one of the best offensive months a team has ever had, if not the best. We hit 60 homers in the month of June, hit 300 as a team, definitely slugged over 500. I don't know how many points over 500. I mean, we basically became like Larry Walker in the month of June as a team. Doesn't happen.
Still insane.
Just
I mean,
happen.
Even now as a team, the Braves have a ridiculous offensive record. I think, Cole, you were saying they still, as of a few days ago, had a team slugging percentage of over 500?
Yeah, I haven't checked that recently. I know in terms of WRC Plus, we are tied with the 1927 Yankees for best all time. I didn't realize, though, that there is something of an asterisk tied to it, just because the NL didn't have the DH for a long time, which I think I can throw that out. It's just there's some teams that didn't have that benefit, and that's why they rank lower than we'd think, like the 1976 Reds. So and obviously the 1927 Yankees had the pitchers hit too. So I'm not too. I think it's going to be one of those
if we had Max
situations.
Fried coming to the plate every other day, we'd
yeah,
300.
I know it will be similar to Ronald Acuna Jr.'s hopefully 40-70 season, where we're like, oh well, rule changes and but then 20 years are going to pass, and we're going to say to ourselves, oh wait, yeah, that was actually really special what he did. Like, not many people have done that, if anybody. So this is, I mean, again, one of the, if we need to revisit some of my nicknames that I have thought a lot about, we can. My last game of the season, and I'm a little bit biased, but it was the home opener against the Padres. I was just riding such a high at this point. I'd seen the World Baseball Classic Mexico versus Japan game not even a month prior, and I was just first game of the Braves season. I was just treated to pretty much just a game that had everything. Spencer Strider looked really good. I mean, he gave up that home run to the ghost of Matt Carpenter, and ends with an Orlando Arcia walk-off single. Just like it was a good table setter, especially, we already were looking like a really good team. I think that made us 6-1 on the season, and I think that's where the first thoughts started coming to my mind, like, oh, this team can be something special. So just again, I'm super biased about it, but early in the season, it's when we thought the Padres were going to be something. And, you know, it was a game where we lost the lead a few times, but kept coming back and then ended it with an Orlando Arcia walk-off. And, you know, it felt like it catapulted a lot of really good seasons we've seen from, you know, the likes of him. Obviously, Michael Harris got injured that game and led to some of his early season struggles, but just a really good game overall.
Yeah. And I have one more game. It's kind of just a silly game, but that Nicky Lopez game back in the doubleheader.
The
I don't know what it is.
Jets Falcons game.
It's so funny to me that you have a guy who the Braves acquired for nothing, Taylor Hearn, Braves legend, and he just goes out and has a 4-for-6 game. This guy who's notably not known for hitting, hits a homer, hits a double. I mean, the homer was off a position player, but we'll count it. And then he goes out and pitches a scoreless ninth inning to win the game. I've been wanting Brian Snitker. Yeah, Ohtani who. I've been wanting Snitker to like throw out a position player with the lead to pitch for years now. And he'd never do it. Like when the Braves clobbered the Marlins 29-9, Bryce Wilson got a save. Like, what are we doing? Just throw Charlie Culberson out there and have some fun with it. And he finally did it with Nicky Lopez. And yeah, it was just, I know it's the Mets post trade deadline, but it's Nicky Lopez. He's a fun dude. I've loved him on the Braves.
It was a very good introduction to his tenure as a Brave, and we've sung so many. You know, we were of course, obviously the first ones on the Nicky Lopez hype train. You know, don't get that wrong. But such a good introduction for him as a Brave, two Braves fans into the team, and he's fit so well. You would think he was on the team the entire season, just with how well. I don't know if I should reveal this information, but I did get to sit. Last game I went to, I did get to sit right next to the third baseline, right in front of the Braves dugout, and I saw Nicky Lopez nip flip Michael Harris, and that was pretty cool. on his headband night too. That was just pretty.
Have you noticed that Nicky Lopez is wearing a Michael Harris headband?
Yeah, I lost my headband. I was gonna wear it actually this episode, but I just don't know what I did with it. So, all right, when we're gonna take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to look at some of my unsung moments, just things that I've appreciated seeing. I'm gonna miss seeing as the season winds to a close. That, you know, when you watch as many Braves games as we do, you just start to pick up on the little things, and I want to bring some attention to them. Mitchell's going to go through some of his season highlights, some of the big picture, because again, this Braves team has pretty much just broken so many records.
Yeah, it's almost too good.
Done so many just crazy things. Of course, they did it knowing that this up and coming Braves podcast was formed this season, and really wanted to do something special in celebration of said podcast. And then we're going to go, just because I actually did try to bring up some of the player predictions we had, and I just couldn't get to the point in the episode for all of them. I think I remember some of my over-unders, so if you want to go over that, but we are going to do some of our second half predictions. Most of them we can't say for sure, but we pretty much are at a 98% certainty. So awesome. So when we come back, we'll go over
20% success rate for me.
my one of mine looks really, really bad again after being hopeful for all of a week. All right, we will see y'all on the other side. Stay tuned.
Well, we've had 23 two-out runs scored in this series, 12 by the Mets, and look it off. And that'll do it! Woo! Start the buses! Pour Larry a crown! Oh, man!
Oh, it's time
to eat! That will do it!
And we are back on Braves Cast. Is it cool if I just go over my unsung heroes, unsung?
I mean, I expected this just to be the outline to a beautifully crafted poem that you're about to hit me with. So,
On the spot.
on the spot. I mean, no, it's not on the spot. You have it written, right? You've
It's
crafted
definitely
this over
there's definitely no
5
pros.
months.
There's definitely no pros to this. It's just things that I just little idiosyncrasies or just things that you appreciate when you watch a team for literally like 6 months out of the
way
year.
Too much. Way too much.
Yeah. So my number one is Orlando Arcia's footwork. We've been spoiled by good defensive shortstops, and Orlando Arcia, he's never going to be in the conversation for, top 5 defensive shortstop. He's always going to be middle of the pack. That's just who he's established himself as. And he's made some highlight plays. There was that one he made in Cleveland, I remember, where he basically just dove in center field and was still able to throw the runner out. Or I think he caught it. It was a great play. But just what makes him special, he's not going to be the most flashy guy on the planet, but the way he's able to just so meticulously have his feet placed at the exact right position every time he throws. He actually made an error this weekend in Miami, and it felt especially shocking because you just don't see him make those errors. You see him pretty much, I know he also made that error in Colorado as well, but if you're at a high altitude, just wacky stuff happens on a daily basis. It's a lot different from the way that Dansby Swanson plays defense. And that's what I, love about this stupid little sport is that you have these two guys who play the same position. They've put up similar offensive numbers. If you were to just look at the numbers on the page, for both defense, offense, we'll ignore base running. And you just said Brave shortstops. You would think it's the same guy. I mean, you would think that, he's a little bit different here. But the way that they get to that point looks so different. Dansby was more about, positioning and agility. Orlando Arcia doesn't really have that same agility, but he has that consistency. He has that just instinct.
He's the slowest member of the Braves by sprint speed.
Yeah, he's a lumbering guy, but he makes up for it just with his pinpoint precision, and part of that just comes the first step for him in his defensive work is his feet, and it's always fun to watch. It's always seeing him turn a double play. It's just so mechanical, and I didn't get to mention this earlier, but my favorite play from this year was against the Twins, where Ozzie Albies makes that diving stop and then just tosses up to Arcia, who's already pretty much planted and ready to throw. One of the coolest plays you'll ever see. That's going to be on Braves highlights for years to come. So that was my number one. My number two, I'll try to get through this quickly. This is something we see just every year. Travis d'Arnaud pimping up the pitchers. Anybody who plays MLB The Show, especially franchise or just exhibition games, if you execute a good pitch, the catcher will in the game will be like, yeah, you good pitch, dude. You really threw a good pitch. Travis d'Arnaud does that IRL. I've never seen a catcher just give the pitcher kudos in game the way that he does. It's so fun to watch. He's so animated behind the plate, and it's just a joy to watch season in and season out. I've never seen a catcher do that.
Someone pointed it out on Twitter or when the Braves clinched, but he was the first guy out on the field after the last out. He went straight to Sean Murphy, pumped him up, went to the pitcher, pumped him up. The age is not quite working out because Brian Snitker is 67 and Travis d'Arnaud is 34. But if Snick can hold on until 72, get maybe a 1, 2, 3 World Series rings, retire after Travis d'Arnaud's age 38, age 39 season. d'Arnaud, unless another team steals him away, will be the Braves' next manager because, I mean, he's that guy. I've talked about it before where Braves players were asked who's the next person, who of the players will be a manager, a lot of them answered Travis d'Arnaud, including Travis. And
Yeah.
he just has that kind of support that Brian Snitker has kept his job for so long. Snitker was not a good manager when he first got hired. Tactically, he's a lot better now. The reason he kept his job is because he knows how to deal with players, and d'Arnaud's that guy. Yeah, I mean, that is something. And I can't believe this guy was a Met. Like, it feels like he's been a Brave for life.
Yeah.
I really
And
don't ever
he-
want to see him in another uniform.
And he loves, I mean, you always see him at Hawks games during the All-Star break. A bunch of Braves players went out fishing, or they had a lake day, and he was in the middle of it. I mean, he loves this clubhouse. I would say he's the tone setter for the entire clubhouse, and I would be genuinely shocked if he is not the manager of the Braves by the end of this decade. So,
No, for sure.
and if you just want a microcosm of that, if you want one little moment that represents what he does for this team, every time you see him after a good pitch, just point to his pitcher and go, that's what we went over. That's the game plan. It's so fun to watch. Speaking of that, the Rick Kranitz pep talks, Braves pitching coaches in years past, I don't think have gotten the best results out of their team. Who was the guy? My gosh, I'm totally blanking on him. He was the pitching coach in like 2017. He was, I think, the guy right before Cranny. And whenever he did a mound visit, I don't know if I should be creeped out by this, but like he would just put his hand in the pitcher's back pocket, like he was, like they were on a date, something. Like they were, at the movie theater, and the pitcher who he's talking to just paid for the movie tickets and the concessions. That's kind of the body language he had around them. Always made me slightly uncomfortable. It just looked off to me. Rick Kranitz is awesome out there. Whenever if you want to talk about being animated, the way he talks to his pitchers is just so, it's like your buddy hyping you up after you've had a down bad kind of day. He's like, pointing at him. He's like, dude, you are the guy. You are the man. I mean, we are relying on you, bud. It doesn't matter if he's talking to Spencer Strider, even Jared Schuster on Saturday, same body language. I was a little afraid he was going to talk down to him. I was a little afraid that coming out of that mound visit, Jared Schuster would look even worse. But no, he similar to Travis d'Arnaud, he's just hyping up his guys. And I love the fact that he's our pitching coach, and he's done an amazing job with the staff. My next one is Matt Olson. Oh, sorry.
So, before we get to that, if you had told me that there had been a pitching coach in between Roger McDowell and Rick Kranitz before we started this episode, I wouldn't have believed you. I do not remember Chuck Hernandez at all. I thought the Braves have had this coaching staff.
When was Chuck Hernandez? Because
2017 and 2018.
It was Chuck Hernandez. Yeah.
Chuck Hernandez was the pitching coach when the Braves won the division in 2018. I forgot this guy's name. I forgot everything about this dude.
So you're
I'm
saying
genuinely shocked right now.
that Rick Kranitz is the reason that Mike Fultonavich and Sean Newcomb never worked out?
Yeah, I think you might be right.
All-Stars
You
in
might be onto something.
2018 and out of the league
Well, I mean, Newcomb was pitching for the A's the other day.
out of the league by 2022. Sorry.
What? I'm
I was so surprised when
another
you.
pitching coach.
Yeah, he
I
was
do
the
not
guy.
remember this
He was
guy
the
at
guy
all.
that whenever he did a mound visit, he would just first thing he did before he even said it, were just stuck his hand in the pitcher's back pocket and brought him close, like literally like they're on a date or they're getting intimate. It was
Zero recollection.
always
Zero
creeped me out.
recollection.
It always made me feel uncomfortable. Glad he's gone. I bet you're a good dude, but I like having Rick Kranitz up there.
Absolutely no memory of this guy at all. That is crazy.
My
Okay.
next one is Matt Olson, opposite field home runs. It's something that it just doesn't. Lefties hitting to the opposite field always has looked more off-putting than righties hitting to the opposite field. I don't know how to explain it. It feels so inside out. feels like putting on a sock the wrong way. But Matt Olson's is especially funny because I don't think I've ever seen him hit a home run to the opposite field where his first reaction to it is, oh, this is going foul. Every time he hits a home run to the opposite field, and I first noticed this in Citizens Bank, when he first hit that home run, he was like, he stayed at the plate. Like he was like, oh, that's going foul, obviously. And it just like hooks barely across the pole. I think it's hilarious. I don't think I've ever seen him like it's happened a couple times, obviously, but I just don't think I've ever seen him truly pimp one to the opposite field. He's just such a strong dude that it literally is just a pop-up that happens to go 400 feet. But I think this is just a fun, it's always going to freak me out, a lefty hitting to the opposite field, and Matt Olson is no exception to that. But his reaction to it was what sells me. Him not realizing how far he hit it. My next one is Ronald. Sorry, do you have anything on Matt Olson's?
No, I mean I'm going to talk about Matt Olson in a minute anyway. So
cool. I got 3 more. Hope this poetry hour is treating y'all well.
It's a lovely poem.
My next is this could be a name to like a poem or a song or something. Ronald's Ghost Steals. He hasn't done one recently. He around like April or May, he realized that pitchers actually are really bad sometimes at, once a runner's on second, are really bad at holding them in between pitches, especially with the pitch clock. And I think that's what he was doing. I think he was realizing that pitchers were more worried about setting at the right time and engaging. You know, there's the new nuances with the pitch clock. And he realized, I don't even have to wait till they wind up. I can, especially if, because it was during, I forgot. Maybe, well, yeah, it was during either like Matt Olson's at bats where the third baseman is playing off the line, and he was like, "Hey, if the third baseman's not really paying attention to me, the pitcher's not paying attention to me, and I'm on second, I can just take third." He stopped doing it because I think teams started to realize like how embarrassing it was just having a guy literally just walk to third basically in between
on
pitches.
A walk from first, like that steal in particular.
Yeah,
I hate it if you're that team, especially when you have like Max Muncy at third. Like he's not a great defensive player, but he knows better.
Yeah.
Demoralizing.
So maybe we'll see it come back in the postseason. That becomes a different beast, especially like in a close game where, you know, if Ozzie Albies is, or Michael Harris even is batting second and they're playing off the line and the pitcher's more focused on, could happen.
Yeah.
My next one is the evolution of the home run celebration this year. Every team, besides ones that don't have any fans and are moving to Las Vegas or have some other miserable occurrence going on, has a home run celebration. Most of the time it's a prop. You know, the Red Sox, I actually really enjoyed the Red Sox a couple years back with the cart. That seemed really fun. But every team has a home run celebration now. I like it. It's an evolution of the game. The Angels had like the samurai hat. The Mariners had the trident. The Blue Jays used to have the jacket. The Padres used to have that giant piece of bling that Manny Machado paid like $1 million for. The Braves' first one was this hat. It kind of looked like the Baby Mario hat. It was this oversized hat that was just thrown to one of them during like one of the early season
opening week parade.
I never liked it that much. I thought it was kind of goofy. I was glad that we had one, but I always thought it was kind of goofy. And then New Era, the company that they are, told them to stop using it because it was not a licensed hat, and they have an exclusivity rights deal with Major League Baseball. And if a team is wearing a hat that's not a New Era ball cap, that violates the agreement. So they had to stop wearing it. They had to. I don't know where that hat is. That actually would be kind of a fun piece of memorabilia if it doesn't cost like thousands of dollars. But what they have now is they realize they hit home runs very, very far. In fact, we have broken records for how far we hit home runs this season. So we started doing the bird flap. I think it's awesome. It is such a great sight seeing like Michael Harris, Orlando Arcia, and Ozzy Albies just on the railing, just pretending they're birds. I think that's a lot better than having to like, do your home run trot and then come to the dugout and they put a stupid hat on you, or like a piece of headwear. I think it's unique. I think it's very Braves. It's organic. And I love it. I love that, we had to drop the stupid hat and we came up with a much better celebration.
I mean, I've started doing it after home runs.
Me too. Yeah.
Like I'm watching on my TV by myself, I just go like this.
It's
after
this
every
year's.
home run.
It's this year's. To me, it's like this year's Pearls. During the playoffs, after every home run, you're gonna have a stadium full of people pretending they're birds. So I think it's great. I just really great character progression from the Braves team. And then my last one, just to round it out here, is the defensive alignment and the glove. If you haven't noticed, Michael Harris and Ronald Acuna, every team, infielders, outfielders have a defensive alignment. Basically, it's this laminated piece of paper that for every hitter on the opposing team, where should you play? Are you playing this far off the second base, this far in the outfield? Are you going back? Are you going in? And most teams keep it in their back pocket. It's a good place to keep it. The Braves keep it in their glove. Ron Acuna Jr., was it last year he started doing it or before then?
It's recent. I think it might have been last year. I didn't really get that info. Like, it didn't seep in when I read the Fangraphs article. But yeah, it's a recent one.
Yeah, and so if you're watching, it's under there. I mean, they just keep their defensive alignment in their glove. I don't know how they actually keep it in there. I don't know if there's just like a certain way they fold it. But if you pay attention very closely, especially if they're making a play where, they're kind of having to reach far ahead, you'll see that thing just flapping in the wind. There's a Michael Harris, I think it was a Kyle Schwarber home run robbery where you just see the defensive alignment just sticking out for the whole world to see. It's just another like idiosyncrasy that I think is just so Braves. So yeah, those are my the unsung heroes, unsung moments of the season.
That might have been the best poem I've ever heard. Hopefully
very long one.
Down. It's a long, sometimes long-winded poems are the best ones. The ones that stick the longest.
Robert Frost doesn't have shit on me.
Yeah. And then, 30 years from now, you have English teachers in Georgia making them read Ronald's Ghost Steals by Cole Robertson.
Transcribing this entire podcast.
Reciting it.
As a punishment.
Every person. Yeah. So I just wanted to focus on a few season highlights. The Braves have had a fantastic season. One of our flaws as a show is that Ronald Acuna Jr. has just been so good, like consistently throughout the season, that it's not like, when Eddie Rosario gets hot or Marcell Ozuna gets hot or Matt Olson has these stretches where he hits, 20 bombs within 30 days and then he doesn't hit another one for like 3 weeks. If you look at like his rolling WOBA, ex-WOBA, WRC plus charts, anything like that, there are not spikes and dips. And I think now is a good point to just really let it seep in that Ronald Acuna Jr. could have a 40-70 season. Like, it's not that far out. He needs 3 more homers. He can do that in a series. He can do that in a game. And I've had this thing with Matt Olson that I'll talk about too, where it hasn't really sunk in to me how ridiculous it is. I don't care about the new bases. Ronnie was going last year with a knee and a half. Like, the new bases or not, he was still going to try to steal 40-50 bases this year. Has it helped him be safe on a few of those? Probably. But it's not the reason he has 70 steals. Or 67 or whatever he has. It's not the reason. He wasn't like a 20 steal guy beforehand, and he's turned into a 65 steal guy. And then the homers too. Like, I think this month especially, he was like, I should just hit homers. I should hit a 121 mile an hour bomb. And it's coming off of a year where a lot of people doubted him. We were high on him to start the season, but you had other knowledgeable Braves fans going, don't be concerned if you don't see the Ronald Acuna Jr. you saw in 2021, 2020, 2019 ever again. And instead, we got a better version,
Even
the
better.
best version we've ever seen. He already has 200 hits. There's still, 13 games to go? That's
He's already
absurd.
broken the all-time runs scored record for a Brave.
And
we still
then
have 13
we've
games
talked
left.
about how he sets the table in the first inning, how insane it is when he reaches the Brave score. And if he was even having, half the season he's having now, he'd still be an all-star. And I feel like we haven't appreciated it enough. It's just hard when you're that good always,
Yeah. When you're doing
we didn't see high stretches.
basically everything well, and yeah, I mean, he had an 0 for 13 stretch from the Dodgers, end of the Dodgers series and the Cardinals series, and then he hits
Went,
2
5 for
homers
9.
the next game. Yeah.
Yeah,
His strikeout rate is
even
one of the
with his walk
lowest.
rate.
Yeah. For
Even.
That's impressive for a guy like Luis Ariz or Jose Ramirez. But for a guy that's also stealing close to 70 bases, if not 70 bases, and hitting 35 plus homers, that's in today's game, especially in today's game where pitchers are throwing faster than ever, breaking balls literally look straight out of a Looney Tunes cartoon. Unheard of, just ridiculous. And I think you say this a flaw of this podcast. I just don't think we can fully comprehend what he's doing.
I can't. I think it will take me years to when I'm on Fangraphs when he hits his 1500th hit, and I go back and I look at 2023 and I go, he really did that. That's insane.
And I don't have them right now. When this is this is getting into nerdy light territory. His expected stats are better. He's actually
by a lot.
underperforming
by a lot. Yeah,
Let me see if I can pull this up real quick.
I think it's by 0.05.
I thought it was a lot. His I'll just do something simpler. His expected slugging is 662, which would be the highest slugging percentage in a season in the last 15 years. Christian Yelich, he had a 660, 640 in 2019. I don't know what
And his
Miggy
slugging right
topped
now
out
is
at.
586. So what Cole is saying pretty much is that he's expected to have another 5 homers in total.
Pretty much, yeah. This is another one. I do want to start this, and I'm going to make an attempt to. One beautiful thing about StatCast that I don't think we fully realized is, there's certain numbers that we hold dear to our hearts. I know we're going to talk about 50 homers in just a second. 50 homers, a 300 batting average even, or there's just numbers that we internalize as oh, this is impressive. 60 homer season. I want to start the 95 plus exit velo season where literally for an entire season, you're averaging a hard hit ball. Ronald, it's actually dipped, but he's at 94.6 right now. And I think he can get it up to
That's
95
still insane.
with the way he's hitting. That has only been done, I believe, 7 times in the StatCast era. I know that's not something that
Is it by the same
can-
two guys?
succinctly, it's like Aaron Judge. And I think Miguel Sano is on that list. But
Miguel Sano hit the snot out of the ball.
yeah, he had an insane 2019. So yeah, it's just there. The jokes about looking at Mike Trout's baseball reference and looking at Barry Bonds. I think looking at Ronald Acuna Jr.'s baseball savant is going to be the next evolution in just looking at the data and laughing.
I really hope we get hit by just how fantastic of a season this is. I mean, we know it is, but I think we're still undervaluing it just because we see it every day. Another one that I've undervalued is Matt Olson. I was low on Matt Olson last year. I think that terrible August to September stretch that he had really bummed me out, especially after it being his first year replacing someone. He's been really good this year, like really, really good, and I've definitely become a member of the Matt Olson trade this year. I love Matt Olson. I love the kind of guy he is with his teammates. It wasn't until he hit the 50 that it really hit me. Wow, 50 homers. He has 50 homers, and he does it so easily. When you were talking about his opposite field home runs, that made me think about how pissed off he looks when he hits a home runs or annoyed. You have guys like Ronnie who, he hits a home run, and you're like, that's a home run. By the way, he's looking at the ball. Olson hits home runs, and you're like, was that a pop out? And you're like, oh no, that ball's flying.
Yeah.
That ball's going 467 feet. He just looks so annoyed that he's hit a homer. Like, it's inconvenienced him. He hits it 110 miles an hour, flies way over the center field fence, and he's just like, man, that sucked.
Yeah. Oh, I could have gone it over the chop house.
I could have been better. Could have been.
Yeah,
could have
I
been
could
more
have.
impressive.
I really wanted to hit the center field camera with that one, but it just landed in the Chattahoochee River. Ugh.
I was happy that for him that he's the Atlanta Brave, the all-time Braves, not just Atlanta Braves, franchise single-season home leader. Especially after last year, you come in, you want to make a good impression, not just with a new team, but your childhood team, your hometown team, and he's done that and more. Like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we have him for another 6 seasons after this. If he has seasons, 80% of what this has been, we're talking about a Braves Hall of Famer. Like, not Cooperstown, but like Braves Hall of Famer. And maybe Cooperstown. And I need to appreciate it more myself, because 52 home runs and counting is absurd. Like, he has an outside chance at 60.
I mean, he's not slowing down either.
Speaking of,
I don't know if I have any color on Matt Olson's season. I was looking back at, because he was the first episode we did ever. Matt Olson, our player preview. We were a little high on him relatively to where I think a lot of Braves fans were at. Like, we still weren't, the obviously the swear jar, still has all those pennies in it.
We'll be donating a lot of money to the Braves Foundation.
Yeah, we should do that actually. But I think we were like, 35 homers. I think you went over, and I went under, and I feel pretty.
I mean, I always
have
believed in his power relative to last year. I thought he would have a 135 WRC plus, and that's really good,
Yeah, it was an
MVP candidate.
Yeah, and I think in the back of our minds we knew that a 50 homer type of season was possible, and I think we were so high on that when he first came to the Braves, and then he didn't do it, and then we overcorrected our expectations. And yeah, I mean, this is if he had this type of season last year, we are already, I mean, you said Braves Hall of Famer, we're already like, yeah, I mean, he's, retire his number tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just amazing. Him and Ronald have been, one of the greatest offensive duos of all time. And
someone should make a video.
Or somebody should give some more views to a video if that video does exist. Okay, next one. Speaking of bombs, I feel bad. We're talking so much about homers, but it's like this team's gonna break the home run record. I mean, so boom or bust.
The Braves have 4 guys with 35 homers or more. That's something you do on MLB The Show franchise, where you juice all the guys' ratings and you hit a bunch of homers. This is not something you do.
Is Marshall at 35 or 34?
He hit 35 yesterday.
Oh, okay, cool. I stopped watching the game after Charlie Moore. Like I just
I don't
tuned it
know.
out. Okay, that's okay. Sweet. Heck
Yeah. So 4 guys with 35 bombs. Ozzy has a remote chance at hitting 35. He's at 30 now. Just absurd. And these are not just home run or bust guys. Like Acuna has one of the highest batting averages in baseball. He has the highest on base percentage in baseball.
He's Ricky Henderson, who can also hit home runs.
Yeah,
like at an insane rate.
On base machine, Riley. I mean, it's a down season for Riley offensively.
Relatively.
And he's still hitting like 270, 340 something on base percentage. And then Ozuna just decided to be good again this year. He hadn't felt like being good, but this year he was like, I'm really going to be good this year, and he's been good. You're not going to see that again. I don't.
Yeah.
If you're a Braves fan, the money on seeing this again is slim. Like
if you're a baseball fan, the money on seeing this again is slim.
Like
I mean,
maybe the Braves do it again next year, but
yeah,
other teams don't do this. I already talked a little bit about June, so I'm going to skip that just because June was that table setter for this fantastic season. And I have to talk about a pitcher I hate watching.
Kyle Wright.
Well, Kyle Wright is an interesting thing. We don't have time for it today, but like 99% of his wins have come in one season. Bryce Elder. I don't like watching Bryce Elder pitch. And that's me. That's not Bryce's problem. That's on me. I get anxious when I watch the Braves pitch because I don't know. I'm weird and I've been conditioned poorly.
If it makes you feel better, so does Alex Anthopoulos. He wasn't even watching Tyler Matzek's inning in Game 6 of the NLCS.
I mean,
he literally was like...
We were watching it with, like, some pillows tightly held.
That's one of my favorite facts is that Alex Anthopoulos literally just ran to Brian Snitker's clubhouse, like, turned everything off, and then somebody had to, like, come out and tell him, like, we won the game.
Just
like,
the best inning of all time. Yeah. But Bryce Elder really stepped up this year when the Braves needed him the most. Kyle Wright was out for 80% of the season. Max Fried was out for 65% of the season. The Braves were looking like they were going to have 2 starters, a 24-year-old Cy Young candidate, but a 24-year-old nonetheless, and Charlie Morton, a 39-year-old, and that was it. Bryce Elder went from a guy that the Braves didn't trust to start against teams not named the Marlins or the Nationals to a guy who made the All-Star team, deservedly. Like, I don't think there's a way you could argue that at the All-Star break, Bryce Elder did not deserve to be there. He cooled down a bit, but even still, he's rebounded a bit.
He's still putting up a good season.
He
I
still
mean,
has a good season going.
Yeah, like overall, he's had his share of blow-up starts, but I mean, when all is said and done,
I'm comfortable pitching, not in the first 3 games of a playoff series, but you put him out in Game 4. I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna be mad about that.
If we got like a 2-1 lead in the series, throw Bryce Elder out there.
Even if
give him a
it's
short lease,
short lease, Ian Anderson-esque. But
yeah,
Bryce Elder stepped up a lot this year. I think a lot of fans were down on what he could be, just because of his stuff, and we don't talk enough about Bryce, and so this is his shout out.
Yeah, his ceiling ain't that high. I don't think he's ever going to be a true Cy Young candidate, but he's going to be, like a Steve Avery type, like one of those guys where you look back at some of these great teams, you're like, you know what, that Bryce Elder, he was a real bedrock for this team. He was a real stabilizer. So we got 3 minutes left on the Zoom call. I know we're doing the playoff preview, but I think we can
fit this in next week.
And we'll know most of these for sure at this point. I mean, most of the answers are like TBD, but yeah, probably. So we'll do that next week. It's been a fantastic season. Mitchell, before we go, do you have any final thoughts for
So I have
this
a
season?
new conspiracy theory. I think that either Charlie Culberson is retiring or he's going to make a run at being a pitcher. So he was on the development list for the past 2 months. I call it the "you suck" list. It's where minor league teams can just make a player inactive with the player's consent because they're not injured, but they suck. Culberson has been on that since August 4, since he re-signed with the organization. On the 16th, they reactivated him. The Stripers did. And he pitched in the 4th inning.
He threw like 93 miles per hour.
93 miles an hour. The game was like a 2 or 3 run game. This was not a blowout in the 4th inning. He wasn't there to like lob some pitches in. He has pitcher stuff, and his hitting career is pretty much in the can. If you spend a month and a half on the major league roster, get one at bat, teams don't trust you to hit. He has pitching potential. He's 34. It's a little too late. He probably should have converted to pitching 4 years ago, but he does have a 1 ERA in the major league. So
No.
you could see Charlie Culberson in Game 4 of the NLCS with the Braves up 8-0. Out comes Charlie Culberson. You didn't even realize he was on the postseason roster, and he just throws like 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
Major league officials are scrambling because they're like, I don't think he is on the postseason roster. I think this is illegal.
Just rigged it because the Braves are definitely cheating, and he goes,
Yeah.
"No, Culberson was on this roster the whole time."
I would love to see a team. I know Jose Bautista tried to make a comeback as a pitcher. I'd love to see a team like the A's just re-sign a bunch of like old hitters who, like when David Peralta retires from hitting, and he's like, let me try this pitching thing out again. That would be so. I always such a fun gimmick, honestly.
Let him
Yeah.
start. Let him have that 6 ERA. All right. Well,
Cool.
That was my conspiracy.
My final thoughts is just what a great season. The most fun I've ever had watching baseball. Future me is going to hate present me just because I don't know if it's going to get any better than this. But we'll see. Next time we see you guys, it's going to be our true recap, just going over our predictions, our stupid predictions. And then postseason
We got to figure
preview.
out postseason. So you should subscribe so we have.
It's going to be a fun
reason.
time. It's going to be a wild ride. All right. Bye. See ya.
Bye.